Just someone, I'm going to keep you till 1:15. It's just my nature to get as much out of a class as I can, so don't pack up yet. It's just my, I know some people like to leave at 20 up, but we don't want to shave the university off. We don't have to. Sometimes I might quit, but other times I like to keep going. I think we can keep going a little bit. He's a man of affairs. He's successful. He has to be successful to catch the attention of this rich widow. He's obviously been to the Iraq area as well. He's as much of a cosmopolitan person as you can be. He's traveled everywhere. He's not a bumpkin. He comes from a principal Meccan clan. He has the protection of his clan, or not, a principal Meccan tribe, Quraysh. He has protection of his clan. He's got a very good track record in business affairs. He marries extremely well, ultimately, if not a young sex kitten. Still, he's not marrying Britney Spears or something like that, but maybe it's more like he's marrying Katharine Hepburn or something. I can't give you the proper parallel there, but he makes a wise choice career-wise. It's a good career move, if you want to call it that. So we know enough about the Prophet to know that much about him. He certainly is not an inexperienced bumpkin. And that's why I don't agree with these characterizations that come from Muslim theology, that the Prophet was unlettered and everything that happened to him was miraculous. To my mind, that is selling him short in favor of trying to show what a miraculous thing is. The Muslims don't really like miracles, but they don't like the miracle surrounding Jesus. The only miracles they really recognize is the miracle of the Quran. So to enlarge that, to give that more prominence, to spotlight it as it were, they want to make the Prophet seem, to my mind, not stupider, but more inexperienced, more unskilled than he actually was. So they call him unlettered, meaning he couldn't read or write. And therefore, that makes the miracle of the Quran that much greater. But look, back in those days, when people knew how to recite things, and we are reciting the Quran after all, the poets of that time, and Muhammad is not considered a poet by Muslims because they don't want to identify him with the poet, but he has everything in common with poets in the sense that he recites verses, and these verses have a certain rhyming aspect to them and a rhythm, and they are easily memorized, and you see Muslims do memorize the Quran and recite it, and some memorize it all by heart. So he is a successful word presenter. And maybe the angel is what they want to say. He couldn't do this himself. They said an angel had to do it. Okay, maybe. But he is, oral tradition does not require you to read and write well to be a good poet. Just go to the hills of the Appalachia and see all the musicians that come out of there. I think I mentioned that to you. All the fiddlers, all the singers, all the tremendous musicians to show you that you don't have to be trained in music to know how to do music. In fact, some of the greatest musicians, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Leadbelly, all these people, they're not trained in music. All the jazz musicians, they just pick it up, man. And if you come from a world of poetry or rhyme prose recital, you don't have to be a skilled practitioner in this to pick this up if it's in the tradition of your family. Another point, anyone who's successful in commerce certainly has to be able to give a receipt. Read a receipt and give a receipt. So I've made this point before, but I do honestly think, regardless of the claim that he's unlettered, that the Prophet was not totally uneducated. That is, that he could write receipts and take receipts and read receipts. I don't think he went to Oxford University or Al-Azhar or even Cal State Long Beach, though I think he's probably not as ignorant as most of us here. But I don't think he had a great formal training, but I think he's a sophisticated person. I think he's a very sophisticated person, far more sophisticated than the average Bedouin of his time. And this would come through his training. Now, if you look at his writings, I'm going to finish now in a minute. Don't worry, I'm going to finish. If you look at his writings, you will see that he does know the biblical stories. They say, the angel, someone knows the biblical stories. But he doesn't show evidence of knowing the biblical stories direct from manuscript form. That is, he doesn't put the biblical stories into his narrations and his soliloquies in a precise manner as they're in the Bible. So, again, the angel may be doing this, or he is receiving information in an oral manner and retaining it from memory. So the fact that he didn't maybe read or write has some basis in that context, that he doesn't read or write these stories as such, a manuscript like a monk would do sitting in a cell next to him. But he does have information about the stories that could easily come from people. When you're on the caravan trade and you meet Jews and Christians and you're in the campfires, you got 30 or 40 days in the desert and you got nothing to do and you're around the campfire, people recite stuff and they read stuff. And I'm sure that he was exposed to these materials in an oral fashion in some way on these various travels that he took. And I don't think he's just operating in a vacuum as the Muslim thing. Now, I give you the Muslim view. I told you what they think. Doesn't mean that I have to accept that. I'm an academic. And I think that he shows clear evidence, not of reading reception of stories, but oral memory reception of stories. And that will come out in some of the odd ways that these stories are transmitted or expressed. That is, sometimes they show the work of memory over them, and I'll show you instances where memory has either mixed things up or fallen down or caused some other odd thing to occur in the story. See you. Sorry to keep you over the 45. I am 1 minute over, I apologize. I'll try to keep myself back in the future. I just wanted to hurry up and get moving in this class.